All right, you ready? My turn. Okay. Episode 7. Oh, welcome to episode 7 of C3 Crystals, Cauldrons, and Cocktails. I'm River.
I'm Wren. Oh man, I almost said it.
Okay, let's start over. Welcome to episode 7 of C3 Crystals, Cauldrons, and Cocktails. I'm River.
I'm Wren.
And this week, we are continuing our discussion on herbs. Specifically, we're going to go into how to go from the harvesting of the herbs to using the herbs in magic. So first, where do you find these herbs? Where do you find the herbs? Well, number one, you can grow them, obviously. And you can grow them in garden beds. You can have an entire garden of just herbs. Or you can even have a garden that's small, like in garden pots, like on a little patio, which you have at your house right now.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of a patio witch right now, a patio garden witch.
Wait. What are you drinking?
Oh, I forgot. So what cocktail are you drinking today, Wren?
I am drinking a Mike's Hard strawberry lemonade.
Ooh, another lemon thing. You're still into the lemons.
I am.
Hey, this is Wren. I'm editing and just listening through. I hear my sound isn't as adequate as it usually is. I've been having some technical difficulties with the microphone for this episode, but hopefully throughout the rest of the episode it should be fine, or if it's not, I'm very sorry. I will have it all fixed and ready to go for episode 8.
Yeah, so I'm out of town again. I feel like every time I've been podcasting with you, except for last week when we were actually in person for a change, my mom is sick, so I'm out of state helping my mom. So again, we're not in person together, which that was so much fun. I can't wait to do that again. But I am drinking. It's just I didn't have the energy today to make a fun cocktail, so I am drinking the McBride Sisters Collection Sparkling Brut Rosé from Hawke's Bay, New Zealand.
Oh, fancy.
And it is tasty.
Yummy.
So I'm sitting out on my parents' deck up here in the mountains, and I brought the bottle with me, brought it outside with me, got it set up. My parents aren't, although I think my dad's a witch, they aren't super into well, it's not that they're not into the witchy thing. They just, I don't think they know quite what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I'm out on the deck enjoying the weather out here. It's actually very pretty here, and drinking this lovely McBride. I feel like McBride Sisters sounds like a witchy company.
It does kind of. It reminds me of the Practical Magic movie, like the sisters.
Oh, I love that movie. That's one of the very first movies I watch every Halloween season. In October, I'm all about the horror shows, and I watch Practical Magic as my number one. I start off Halloween season with Practical Magic.
Yeah, but that one's not really witchy. I mean,
it's
witchy.
Not really witchy. It's super witchy. It's not Halloween-y.
That's what I meant. It is very witchy.
Yes. So I got totally off topic. Okay. So back to herbs. And where do you find your herbs? And the number one way is to grow them in your garden. I've got land so that we do grow our herbs in our garden. And sometimes my husband says they're voracious weeds. But anyway, for people like you, which has, you've got a little deck, and you can grow your herbs in garden pots. And she'll have to post a picture of her deck. It is her little patio. She has gotten the most beautiful patio garden. I would say she has definitely got some green witch in her. Beautiful.
Hippie vibe to it.
They are. And she painted her own. I mean, she's very artistic. Yeah. So she painted and she sanded down and painted a table that she had, and it's all color. The colors just blend beautifully. So post a picture on our website of your patio.
I will. You guys have to remind me because I tend to forget a lot.
I do too. So yes, you can grow them in the little garden pots. So just because you're a city girl doesn't mean you can't have herbs and grow your own herbs for your witchcraft. You can find them in the wild, which is one of my favorite things to do. You can go and harvest them in the wild. You can buy them from farmers markets. Atlanta has a great farmers market that has fresh herbs, and I bet a lot of towns do. Probably any college town would have a farmers market.
Maybe.
My friend that I visited, I think the time before last that we were podcasting, that friend lives in a college town, and there was a farmer's market there. So I think you can find farmers markets, roadside stands, that kind of thing to find herbs. You can buy them online. Amazon Fresh has fresh herbs. Amazon pretty much has anything. So you can order from Amazon. You don't have to order from Amazon. There's all kinds of places that sell dried herbs. I have found a California grower that makes a type of sage that I like to use in my smudge sticks, and it only grows out there in California. And so I order from them and use those in my smudge sticks. Did you know that according to Dorothy Jacob, this is totally off point, who wrote A Witch's Guide to Gardening, that just about every plant on earth has been used in witchcraft, except this certain type of wild celery. Didn't you say you were allergic to celery?
I'm allergic to celery. It makes my tongue swell and go numb.
See, she's a witch for sure, because the fact was that the herbs were used against witches, that they would sprinkle this wild celery around their house to repel witches.
Oh my.
Isn't that interesting? That made me think of you when I came across that. I was like, I don't think Wren likes celery. I think she's allergic to it. She's definitely a witch.
I guess it would work if I was going around their house licking their dirt. But other than that, I don't think it would repel me that much.
That is very funny. Yeah, don't do that.
No.
Or if you do, take a video.
No.
Okay, so harvesting tools. There are so many garden tools out there that are perfect for harvesting, and you may have stuff on this too, but there are blades and scissors and knives and pruners and trowels. You can use a ritual blade that you work just for your herb magic. A bowline herb sickle is the perfect tool. It kind of looks like a crescent moon on a stick. It's a perfect tool for harvesting.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have ceremonial bowline knives. You can have just regular bowline knives, but that is a perfect thing. You can use your athame, but I think an athame to me is a more ceremonial type knife than for herb use. But then again, if you're a kitchen witch, your athame may be your tool for working with herbs.
Yeah.
I like to use garden scissors because I am slightly accident prone, and having a knife or a sickle in my hand is a bad thing.
Yeah.
So I have less chance of cutting myself if I use the scissors, and they have these special scissors that have like parallel blades, and you can cut with those. So I like to use those. Another tool is the harvesting basket. You have baskets, bowls, cloths, jars. So it's really nice if you can find a cool basket that you can carry on your back, because that leaves your hands free if you're going to go hiking in the woods to be wild harvesting. But a regular backpack will work. There's plenty of space in a backpack. Wow, I've only had half a drink. Plenty of space in a backpack that for your tools, and keeping your tools and herbs and all that separate so they're not a crumpled mess. Yeah. The cloths you can use to wrap herbs in, like especially tender herbs. Jars for any saps that you might want to collect off the tree, or hard to contain herbs, like herbs that might break into little seeds. I can't remember which herb it is that I use, that the little flowers just fall apart into these little tiny, smaller than pea size things. So a jar would be perfect for containing those. Even Tupperware, honestly, would work. Mm-hmm. You can order some witchy containers on Etsy. I've seen some of those little Tupperware things with witchy lids. They're adorable.
Oh, trust me, I have so many saved in my like little cart on Etsy and wherever. Mm-hmm. I'm obsessed with all like these little jars and everything. I have yet to buy any because my plants aren't ready, and this is my first season that I'm going to harvest and prepare my herbs and stuff.
So you're actually planning this season on doing some herb magic?
I'm really excited because I've never done it before.
That's awesome.
I do need jars. So I have a whole ton saved. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes, they really, Etsy. I love Etsy, honestly. I like to support small businesses.
Me too.
So they had on Etsy, speaking of Etsy, they had some witchy lunch boxes that are perfect for, and then they're kind of insulated. So if you're out in the wild and it's hot, you don't want your herbs to wilt. You can put them in this little lunch box, and they have the witchy designs on them. So they're very cute.
That's adorable.
A tool belt, like a garden tool belt is perfect, because I don't know that it's a good idea for me anyway to put my blade in the same place as my herbs, because when I'm reaching in for a jar, I could cut myself. That would be a me thing. So if you keep your tools on your waist, that is helpful as well. There are actual harvest baskets on Etsy too, and Amazon. I mean, like you said, anywhere that you can choose from, some cute ones, some just utilitarian ones. It just depends on what your vibe is and what you want to do. An herb or garden journal. That way you can keep track of the herbs that you've harvested, what dates you harvested them on, notes on where they were. If you're up in a mountain, you're by a stream, and you note that today it was a foggy day and this herb just called to you, and you can write all that information in your journal. So I feel like you should always carry an herb or garden journal with you. A field guide. You want to make sure that you know what you're harvesting when you're harvesting in the wild. A field guide is a great way to tell you this. They have pictures, they tell you about them. And there are some fun witchy herb guides out there. So check those out as well. And then gloves.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I always, what I always do is, I don't know why, I love getting my hands in the dirt. And I know this contrasts with what I said last time, I'm a germaphobe. But I need that. I don't know. It makes me feel better.
Connected. You feel connected to the earth.
When I'm planting that way. But recently I've been like, for something I needed gloves, and I was at the store and I actually saw some, and I was like, oh, I should get some, and I completely forgot. And then I had to go do something, and I was like, oh, the gloves would have been perfect for this. And gloves are essential.
Yeah, I think so too. So your workspace. Think about your workspace for working with your herbs. You're going to need some kind of work table, an altar or a counter or something to work with your herbs. I think it's best to be near a sink, because I use water as well when I'm cleaning my herbs, that kind of thing. A cutting board. It could be as fancy as a true altar space to work your magic on. If herb magic is your thing, then you might be a lot more formal in your space, because this is essential to your practice. I like to do it outside when I'm wild harvesting. Now, there is a difference from harvesting in the woods to harvesting in my backyard, in my garden. Two totally different feels and energies to those.
Yeah.
But in the wild, I like to find a large flat rock to work on, because number one, it holds the heat. I just like you, when you touch it, you feel that connection to the earth. And so I like to work on a large boulder. Andrew Kiernan says that you can work outdoors under a tree, on a picnic blanket, on your patio, that kind of thing. So other than your workspace, how do you actually harvest these herbs? So number one, make sure you know what you're harvesting, especially in the wild. You harvest with the moon in mind, at least for sure Wren will, because she is definitely into the moon magic. I like moon magic too. But under a waxing moon, and I think I said this a couple of weeks ago, maybe last week, you harvest plant parts that are above the ground. And under a waning moon, you harvest those parts that are buried in the soil.
Okay.
And then how you were talking, I think last week, about the planets and the signs that are associated with certain things. Air and fire signs are the best time. I know the moon is associated, and I really need to study up on this because I don't really know how it works. But like the air and fire signs of the moon I don't know if that means when they're in alignment with them or what, but that's the time that you want to harvest, because the plants at that time are considered barren and the growth will have ceased during those signs of the moon.
Mhm.
And Anju Kiernan, again, she's like, I'm a huge fan. She says that the Old Farmer's Almanac is a great resource for checking the year's moon signs and phases to know when you want to go and harvest and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But when you're doing wild harvesting, some plants are illegal or endangered to harvest, so you need to know your region. So, for example, like Cardabelle in France, it's illegal to wild harvest that now.
Yeah.
It used to be good luck. They would use Cardabelle to hang on their door as a good luck charm on their door, but it also told the weather. And apparently the leaves curl inward when bad weather approaches, which I thought was really cool.
That is cool. I mean, when bad weather approaches, like where I am, you can just smell it in the air.
Mm-hmm.
You just already know.
Yeah, these plants apparently would be able to tell, but you can't harvest them anymore there, so it's illegal. Never harvest so much that you kill the plant or leave it unable to regenerate when you're in the wild. Be mindful of the wildlife that's in the area that might need to use these plants as food sources.
Mhm.
So you don't want to destroy their food source.
Yeah.
According to Anju Kiernan again, most white and yellow berries are poisonous, so be very careful when you're harvesting. She said she had some rhymes in her book, and I don't want to tell everything in her book. I think you all ought to go buy her book, but there are some rhymes that she had in there that are tricks to help you know what's poisonous and what's not poisonous and that kind of thing. So I encourage you to go look at it. We'll post the link probably on Amazon. I don't know how you post it. You do all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we can post the link to this book. I really highly recommend it. It's a really fantastic, well-rounded book on witchcraft, honestly.
Mhm.
But she has some great herb harvesting tips that you need to check out. Oh, did you know that when you hear the ingredients for stories that, like, the bat wings,
Mhm.
what they're really talking about when they're talking about bat wings are probably holly, because they're shaped like bat wings.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Sure.
supposedly it's named for the shape of its leaf. So the brew that is really using these holly plants, not flying wings of little critters.
Wow.
Holly is believed to provide protection and security. So it makes sense that it would be holly leaves used in these brews. But, you always hear the bat wings and that kind of thing. But it's actually probably an herb that they were talking about.
Oh.
I thought that was neat.
Yeah, that is neat.
So after you harvest your herbs, and I know you've got stuff to talk about too.
Mhm.
My next thing is about how to dry the herbs. Do you go into any of that on your notes?
I go in a lot of depth about how to preserve your herbs in various ways. But I also have, I guess, input. Like when I usually harvest mine, for instance, I haven't harvested any of my herbs, and I'll probably do it differently than what I harvest my tomatoes or
Right.
that. But usually I just use my hands, because you can pinch off without harming or like damaging your plant at all with your hands or your nails.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also have leaves that you harvest should be free of insect damage or any blemishes. Leaves are often at their peak flavor anytime before they're flowering, and
Really?
and develop off flavors after they're flowered, like after they flowered. So I thought that was really interesting, because I
didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't either. And if harvesting the entire plant, you wait until just before the flower buds open. And if the plant is annual, cut it off at the soil line. And if it's, and I always struggle
Perennial.
with the word, yes, perennial, thank you. Cut off no more than 1/3 of the stem.
I heard that too. I read that somewhere too. Yeah. And that goes along with not killing a plant to the point where it can't regenerate. We want to work with the world, not against the world and the energies. Yeah.
And if you're harvesting the seeds and the fruit, be sure to harvest after they reach maturity and on a dry day. For most, when like the fruit has changed from green to whatever color, like red for tomatoes, or even if it's a leaf like to tan, brown, or black.
So if you're harvesting a tomato for the seeds, you wait until it's almost too ripe or overripe?
I think right as it reaches, like right after they reach maturity. So
Okay.
you think, oh, I need to harvest that. You give it a day or two, and then you harvest it.
Okay.
For preserving, after you harvest, you're going to want to wash and store the herbs that you have harvested properly. So after harvesting leaves or the whole plant, if you should, you rinse in cold water and pat dry. Herbs and spices that are intended for refrigerating, freezing, or drying should be preserved as soon as possible for best flavor and color. And remember to label the container with the name and herb and the date of the harvest.
Yes. And you can even put where you harvested it from. So like if this came, say you went out of state on a hiking trip or something and you harvested some herbs, it would be helpful on your jar to say this is from Virginia or this is from Colorado or, whatever.
So refrigerating your herbs, which I have never heard of, honestly. I know that you refrigerate like ginger and stuff like that. Like you can if you want to.
I refrigerate when I order my sage that comes if I'm not ready right then to make my sage bundles, I will refrigerate them until I'm ready to use them.
Yeah, and I had never heard of this before.
Interesting. Okay.
I was reading, I found everything really interesting, and I will post everything that where I got my information from in the description of our podcast. So after rinsing, place the herbs loosely in a plastic bag and place in the refrigerator. The herbs will remain fresh for a few days to a week. Another method is to place the whole plant or plants in a sprig or jar or cup with about an inch of water, covering the herb with a plastic bag. And then you place it in the refrigerator. And if you change the water out daily, the herbs will last up to 2 weeks.
So that's if you need them to be fresh, because you, like me, sometimes you aren't ready to do your magic with your herbs at that time. Yeah. Okay.
An example.
Oh, I'm sorry, but talking about washing them and patting them dry, like you said, that also is a good time to remove any dead and damaged materials that you like. Sometimes there are some dead leaves that are in there, and you want to clean all that stuff out.
So basil and oregano should be used on day of harvest because it doesn't hold well in the refrigerator.
Oh.
Fennel stalks dry out really quickly and should be used within 3 to 4 days of the harvest. So freezing your herbs after rinsing, gardeners have the option to freeze their whole leaves or cut the leaves in torn sections. However you want to, you can tear the herb and freeze part of it, refrigerate the other part, however you want to do it. Herbs can simply be placed in freezer containers or bags and left there. So herbs can be placed in a single layer on a cookie sheet and then frozen.
Do you think, what are those machines that suck the air out of the bag? Do you think that would be the better way to freeze them, or do you think it matters?
I'm not sure.
Me
I feel
either.
like maybe any way would be effective, but you have to get it like flat and on a thin layer, because I think clumping them together would not preserve it as well. So you have to get it flat.
Okay.
I don't want to waste that much of the freezer bags to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a preference to whoever's using the bags. And
I think the freezer bags, when you're sucking the air out of it, it might it might ruin your
it could.
your herbs.
See anything about the freezer, I know what you're talking about, yeah.
That machine. I can't remember that sucks the air out of the bags, whatever.
Food saver.
Yes, that's it.
So, alternatively, herbs can be placed. Oh, that's wrong. That's the wrong line. If the herbs are frozen, they can be placed in freezer containers or bags. So,
so like you're talking about putting them on a tray flat and freezing them first.
This method prevents the herbs from freezing in clumps and it may be easier to remove individual quantities for cooking or spellcasting or whatever you're doing.
Oh, okay.
In general, blanching herbs before freezing will sacrifice the flavor but retain better color. So whatever you're going for.
Mm-hmm.
If one opts to blanch, place the herb in a colander and pour boiling water over them for about 1 second. And so basil is one herb that should always be blanched. It will blacken if not blanched prior to freezing.
That's interesting.
So once frozen, herbs can last up to 6 months to a year, retain their flavor through those 6 months to a year. So frozen herbs can be used in cooking without defrosting. And when frozen herbs is like in uncooked foods, they should be thawed and like drained of excess water. Or if you want to add the excess water to your food, you can do that. But in most cases,
feel like that would be a magical essence that you would want to put into whatever you're doing.
Again, it's personal preference.
Right.
So the texture will also be softer than freshly harvested.
Okay. My next point is about how to dry the herbs, which I think might be before you get to the freezing part, although some of your information was to freeze it immediately. So
the freezing first, and then I have a whole separate section on drying the herbs.
Okay. Okay.
Onto drying them.
I didn't have anything about freezing. Well, I don't think I did. I'll have to look. I don't remember. So to dry herbs, you can either air dry or heat dry. Mm-hmm. And there are tools that you might use to dry. You have a drying rack, string for tying the herbs in bunches together to hang. You can use an old window screen or a wooden frame that you put a screen. You just staple it onto it if you want to make it yourself. An oven or a food dehydrator or a microwave and trays. Mm-hmm. So these are the tools that you might use in drying your herbs. So some of these tools can be just simple handmade things that you do. You go and you find a tray out of, a cookie sheet or whatever. Or you can go super fancy and say, I am going to be a fancy witch today and buy these things, special things off Etsy or Amazon or whatever that are witchy and cool looking themselves. So or a garden supply shop. They have a lot of stuff too. Just depends on what you're looking for. For air drying, generally you hang the herbs for air drying, but not always. So you tie the herbs in loose bunches that allow for air circulation, mm-hmm. and you hang them in a well-ventilated dry space. And this is what I do. Well, partially what I do when I'm using for my smudge sticks. You can also, and this one I had never heard of, you can put them in brown lunch bags. So you tie them like you would if you're just hanging them, but then you put them into lunch bags or brown bags or paper bags of some kind with that tied end out, sticking out the top, and you punch holes in the bag for circulation. And this actually protects the herbs from getting outside contamination like dust or dirt while they're drying, which I never thought about. I never thought about it. Or they can keep your cats out of them too. If you have cats that walk around in your barn and want to eat your herbs, which I have a cat that likes to go into my altar room. And so my smudge sticks, often he wants to eat them. So putting them in the bag would also protect them from any kind of outside influences. You hang them somewhere not in the sun. You do not want the sun on them because that will bleach them out and take away a lot of their essence. And it can take up to a month to dry completely. You can tray dry, which is where you put the herbs on a single layer in a warm, well-ventilated area. You have to make sure you turn the leaves periodically so that they dry evenly. It's best if there's circulation underneath. So I like to use the screen or, those cooling racks that you cool cookies on after you bake cookies. Yeah. They're like grids. Those I think are perfect if they're not the type of herbs that are really tiny. If they're like long leafed herbs, you can put them on those. And that's a great way to dry them. Yeah. Heat drying is something I had never really thought about until I researched for this. Mm-hmm. Food dehydrators I am going to go and buy a food dehydrator. I want to try this method. I had never thought about using that until doing this research, but I think I am going to do this. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Right? Right?
That because like the options that I have, like what I did my research on was like oven drying, which is typical. I see that all the time. Microwave drying, which I never really see that. So that was very interesting. And then the air drying that you just talked about. And mine were like more basic, but I had never thought of like the food drying, like, the machines that you're talking about. What are they called?
Me either.
So,
Food dehydrator. I don't know.
Hydrator.
Dryer outer.
Holy moly.
So I think maybe we can do one of these together or something.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that would.
I would love to get together with you and have an herb working party.
Yes.
Where we drink wine and we work with our herbs and we, prepare them for drying, and then we actually, take the ones that have already been prepared and do our magic with them. Anyway, we'll have to talk about that later.
Yes.
The next heat drying one is the oven. You got to be super careful with an oven. The temperature needs to be low. Usually they say between 90 to 100 degrees. So try your oven on the lowest setting. If your oven is finicky and runs super hot, you might want to leave your oven door cracked. And then turn the leaves as it goes. And it could take up to 3 hours in a regular oven to do it this way. The microwave that you were talking about, this one is tricky because you can scorch your herbs so easily. I would place them between paper towels and start slowly, like every 30 seconds. What I was reading that says, you do it for a minute and a half to start. And I'm like,
yeah,
I think I would start at 30-second intervals.
Yeah, it's a bit more tedious, I would think. I haven't done it yet, but I feel like, doing that like every 30 seconds, you have to check it, make sure you're not burning your herbs, you're not like damaging them beyond repair. And so it's just like, I feel like the microwave is a little bit more tedious. Oven drying might be better because you can like open the oven, peek, and it's still dry.
But it would take 3 hours with an oven that it might take 5 minutes with a microwave. So, if you're in a hurry, although I don't know that you should always be in a hurry when using magic.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that energy could rub off you could be careless. I feel like magic needs to be more intentional. But it is something. Now, I use the microwave when I I make pressed flowers, which you often press between books, and there's a whole process, and it takes too long for me, and I am impatient. So I have used the microwave to press flowers before to make certain things. And so I would think that would be a similar process. So now that I've said that, I realize that maybe since I'm impatient, maybe I would be one of those witches that would use the microwave.
It reminded me because a while ago I put flowers in one of my books to prepare, and I don't think I ever took them out.
I just reminded you?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm like, I think I gotta go look now.
Oh, that's funny. Well, my next thing is how to store them. So you've got more on how to dry them?
Yes, I have a little bit more. You covered most of it.
Okay.
Oven drying is really quick. I'll go over what I have. So oven drying is a quick method. Mine says quick, other than like yours.
I mean, 3 hours is quick compared to 3 months.
I mean, that's very true.
Yeah.
It's a quick method to remove water from your herbs. However, during the drying process, essential oils are lost and therefore some flavors lost. If using this method, position herbs and spices on a single layer on a cookie sheet and place them in the oven at the lowest temperature. The oven door should be left slightly ajar for air circulation, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And turn the herbs and spices over periodically to uniform the drying.
Yes.
They are sufficiently dry when they are crisp and easily to break, and avoid over drying because it's easy to over dry them, and cool prior to like the storage.
Okay. What about any other methods of drying that you would come up with?
So yeah, for microwaving, always removes the water from the herbs and spice quickly without affecting the flavor. So if you want to retain the flavor, often for microwaving instead of oven drying.
So there is a reason to use a microwave. It's not necessarily just because you're in a hurry.
That's not just for the time.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
So place the herbs or spices in a single layer between paper towels. Microwave for up to 4 minutes, turning them over and checking for dryness, for like, I guess like recoil in the leaves, like trying to crispen.
Okay.
The towels need to be replaced once they are too moist. The herbs are sufficiently dry when they are crisp and easily to break. And again, avoid over drying and cool prior to storage.
Okay.
For air drying, you really hit on the main points of air drying. One method of air drying entails tying strings to a base and like bundle of plants and sprigs or seed heads, and make sure the bundle is small enough for adequate air circulation for uniform drying. Then hang the bundle upside down in a warm 68 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, well ventilated, dry, and dark space.
And y'all, I can't tell you how good herbs smell when they're drying. They smell so good. Well, it depends. There are some herbs I don't like. Rosemary, I'm not a fan of. I think I'm allergic to it. I wouldn't have been surprised if they had said that was the herb that is used to repel witches, because I do not like it. But most herbs, as they're drying, my altar room, it smells heavenly.
I bet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to start mine. I know mine's not going to smell as grand because I don't have that many. I only have lavender, chamomile, sage, and mint.
Thinking about your apartment, where are you going to, where is your space going to be? Is it going to be out on the patio?
I think it'll be in the kitchen.
Because I was going to say it's too wet outside, really. So in the kitchen would be good, probably.
The kitchen would be fine. I can set up a cute little hanging area from my top cabinets. I have a window with some more plants, but those plants are not herb plants. They're succulents, and I have a bonsai. Yeah, mostly they're succulents and bonsai, and so I can hang them there in the sun.
I love bonsai, but I'm not sure I've got the patience to work with those. And it's a good thing our husbands love us, because we have witch stuff all over our houses.
Everywhere, but I keep mine so minimal. Like, he's just like, whatever. My witch stuff, like my whole house basically is an altar, because I have all my little knickknacks and they're placed in specific places. If anybody touches them, I go, you can't touch my stuff.
That's that feng shui or feng shui?
That's like my feng shui of the house. I'm very specific about where my stuff goes, and to change the energies of my house, instead of moving my furniture, I've moved my little knickknacks. And
see, I love that. And your crystals, y'all, she is a crystal fanatic, an expert, really. We'll have to do a lot of episodes on crystals. I'm excited about that too.
So many, they're like pouring out of my ears at this point. My husband was like, yeah, what are we gonna do with all these rocks? And I was like, rocks. What you call them.
Yeah, I know you're rubbing off on one of our mutual friends, because she planted succulents and put crystals in her things. I'm like, we're going to make her a witch yet.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yep.
She's very skeptical. She's like, whatever. But yet she puts crystals.
She's like, you do you. But, she did. She put those crystals in with her plants.
I was like, I asked her, I was like, why? And she's like, oh, they're just really cool. You got to, mix up the colors and the texture of the crystals. And I was like, how are you?
Yep. She's feeling those energies. She just is not acknowledging that she is.
Even if it's like in her mind, an aesthetic, because she placed them aesthetically, that's still something.
I agree. Yeah. We're converting our friends, y'all.
Yeah.
So did you finish all of your drying techniques?
I have finished.
Okay. All right. So my next thing is about storing the herbs.
Mhm.
You take the herbs down from their drying, like if you air drew them, that's not right. Air dried them. Wow. You take them down during the waning moon because this is when the energies are pushed inward. You store them in glass jars with airtight lids. You label the containers, like you said, with the name of the herb, or the name of the herb, the date harvested, and the place. Store them in a cool location out of sunlight. You try to avoid crushing the leaves to preserve the full flavor. If you crush them just before you're cooking them, if that's what you're using it for, if it's a culinary herb that you're using, you don't want to crush it until right before you're using it because that's what brings out that essence.
Mhm.
And like you said, most herbs can last up to a year if properly stored. And then I had never thought about herb seeds,
Mhm.
seeds, seeds. You can also dry the herb seeds. And this kind of blew my mind. I just had never thought about it, but it's actually, that's where the essence of the plant is in their seeds. So hearing you talk about, when to harvest, right as they're ripe to get the seeds,
Mhm.
that's all new to me. But it says you cut the stems with seed heads just as the head begins to turn brown. You gather them into small bunches and you hang them upside down in the paper bags with holes punched in them for ventilation. That keeps the cat from eating them. Once dry, the seeds can be shaken out of the seed heads, and you rub the seeds together to remove them from their sheath or their shell or whatever it is that they're in, the chaff, that kind of stuff. And you lay the seeds out on a clean, flat surface and you kind of blow on them to
Mhm.
remove any debris, separate that chaff and the debris. And you store those in sealed containers. Like, I love the glass containers. That, to me, they're just witchy looking. So I do like to use the glass containers. And for all these drying techniques, make sure the herbs and seeds are completely dry before you store them, or you're going to end up with mold.
That's true. Yes.
Yes.
Most
Did you know that a banana is an herb?
I feel like anything can be an herb.
Well, yeah, I came across this and I'm like, a banana is not an herb. What are you talking about?
I found a lot of, and I was like, that's not an herb. Like, that is not an herb. But if you think about it, generally, you can literally, as a witch, do anything that you want.
That's true. But
my tomato's an herb because it kind of is. Like, yeah, my banana's an herb,
Well, you told us the definition last week, but I was like, how is a banana an herb? And then I came across it saying, excuse me, it's not even the biggest herb. And I'm like, a banana is pretty big. The ginkgo balboa tree is an herb.
Oh.
Which I know that is a magical tree. It definitely is.
Yeah, I think.
But okay, so the definition you said last week that an herb is any plant with leaves, seeds, or flowers used for flavoring food, medicine, or perfume, or something like that. That was close to your definition.
Anything.
And banana leaves are used in cooking. Think of the Hawaiian food. They wrap, the pig skin in banana leaves. And also bananas. Did you know bananas are related to ginger?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Listen, bananas are my favorite fruit, right?
Really?
I love bananas. I love them. I make banana pudding. I make banana anything. Banana ice cream. Ooh, that's my favorite. Listen.
Ice cream. Okay, y'all. If you all email her and ask her, she will post that recipe. So, but you got to ask for it.
I can just say it.
I think they need to ask for it. We need responses from our fans.
I mean, you're right. Okay. I'll leave out an ingredient so it won't. Bananas, heavy cream, Nilla cookies. You grind them up. But there's also like little hacks that I put in there to make it better. So if you want to know that, you got to tweet us.
That sounds really yummy. And then you could make banana ice cream into banana ice cream cocktails with vodka or rum. Rum would be good. Don't make a face at me.
So gross. I'm a fan for banana.
No, it sounds good.
Doesn't sound appetizing at all.
I think bananas and rum and maybe coconut. Ooh.
But now you're starting to get into like the pina colada. You're just missing.
Yeah. Oh, let's do a banana pina colada.
Oh, there's a whole new drink while you're at it.
Okay. So I have more information on the banana.
Okay.
So it is related to ginger since the plant has a succulent tree stem instead of a wood one, which I didn't know that. Apparently its stem is not wood. I thought it was a tree. Anyway.
It's a banana tree.
And then the yellow thing that you peel and eat, the thing that we know as a banana, is a fruit because it contains the seeds of the plant.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where in a banana is the seeds?
Eat the seeds. You eat the seeds.
I can't see the seeds in a banana.
Bite the banana, and then you see when you look into the core of the banana after you bit into it, there are the seeds. You're just squishing.
Okay, I'm going to have to go make banana drinks just so I can look at the seeds inside the banana. And then as to this ginkgo biloba tree, it is originally from China, and it's also known as the maidenhair tree, the Q tree, and the fossil tree. And it can reach a height of 40 meters, it says. So this was obviously a European country. Us Americans still aren't metric.
Yeah, we're not on the metric system.
Yeah, we're not with the rest of the world yet. The leaves and seeds are used for a variety of medical conditions, and ginkgo is currently one of the best-selling herbal medicines in Europe. It's a concoction taken by many middle-aged and elderly folk to increase mental alertness, which obviously I need, and to aid memory, which again, so I need to go eat some ginkgo biloba tree. But so herbs are not just these little, basil leaves that we're thinking of. This whole tree, the bananas are herbs.
Yeah. I think anything can be an herb, honestly.
It just has to fit that definition, which I had never really thought about it.
Well, thanks. That's all that we had. So thanks for listening to this episode. Y'all know where to find us on our website at c3witchypodcast.com. And there you will find our links to our social medias. But if you want to go directly to our social medias, it is C3 Witchy Podcast on every social media platform, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. So thank you guys so much for listening. Also, don't forget to check out our merch link that is also on our website. And let us know if you want us to do anything different, like different designs, different colors. We have a new update from Creator that we are collaborating with. They do have a new shipment of just straight t-shirts for anybody who doesn't want tank tops. I know I personally love t-shirts, so I'm excited about the t-shirts. And yeah, so always chat us. We love to hear your input and everything from everybody. So yeah, thanks so much for listening.